Hello and welcome back to Little More Learning. Today in this data analytics tutorial video, we will be learning about data cleaning and transformation using Python. So first step is handling of missing values. When you're working with real world data sets, there are a lot of inconsistencies present in the data. So it matters how you will be handling them, and you can handle them by various methods. So the very first step when handling missing values is setting up your dataset. Here we will be using a sample dataset. After we are done with this presentation, we will move toward the practical implementation in Jupyter Light Notebook to see how actually all of this code works under a code environment. Next, when we are handling missing values, we should identify the missing values. The first step in handling missing data is to detect where the missing values are located. So this command helps us in finding out the null values in our dataset. Next is counting of missing values. So when we know where missing values are, we should also know how many missing values are. So the isNull function calculates how many null values are there, and the sum functions is responsible for counting them. And this print statement prints out what the missing values are and what the count of them is there in our dataset. Now, the next step is dropping off missing values. If a dataset contains too many missing values, you might decide to remove rows or columns with missing data. For example, if there is a complete set of rows that is missing, so it is better to remove it from a dataset. Or if you are having columns that are completely null or having garbage value, so you should delete them. So for deleting the rows, or you can say for dropping the rows, we can use this command, and for dropping the columns, we can use this one. Next, if there are very confined missing values in your data, then you should consider filling up those missing values instead of dropping them. So you can fill up them with like default values, like in writing something else, you can write unknown, or you can write not applicable, or any other such thing that you can consider as a default value in your dataset can be written in place of missing values. And you can also use statistical values into it, like if there are 4 rows and out of which the third one is empty. So you can either calculate mean, median or mode of the rest of the rows and fill up the value in that particular missing row to complete your dataset. Like in this example, we are calculating the mean of ages to fill up our missing value. Now comes up data standardization and transformation. So what it means is data standardization and transformation ensure your data set is consistent, structured, and ready for analysis. So this includes like renaming your columns, changing data types, and formatting values uniformly so that your data looks pretty good when you are visually seeing it also. So the first step is renaming your columns. So if your column name is quite unclear or inconsistent, so you should rename them. Suppose in this example only, a column is named as imp name. So it is quite ambiguous that what actually it means. So instead of imp name, we can name it back to a employee name. It gives us better readability and looks more appealing to someone who is reading our dataset. In this code snippet, when we are renaming the columns, this function, rename, specifies old and new column names in a dictionary format, like imp name to employee name, imp age to age, imp salary to salary. This particular statement, in place equals true, what it does, it ensures changes are applied directly to the data frame instead of creating a new copy of your dataset. Next step is changing data types. So here what we are doing is adding a column named join date as strings and then converting it into a proper date format. So this is simply adding a column to your dataset and converting it. This pd.toDate to time converts string into proper date time format, allowing operations like sorting by date and extracting year or month in our dataset afterwards. Another example is converting numerical data to categorical data. Suppose we want to categorize employees based on their age groups. So what we can do, we can just make labels, and this pd.cut function, what it does, it splits the age column into defined intervals, or we can say bins, and assigns a label to each range. And this technique is useful for categorizing numerical data. For example, age groups we can divide, or we can divide salary brackets like that way. The next step is standardizing the data. When we want to standardize the data, what we do, we can change the case in which our text in the columns is written. Like if we see here in the example, the cities are in an ununiform state. So we are changing them into lowercase and thus standardizing the data. So what it does, it converts all the text in the city column to lowercase for consistency. Suppose for example, New York will be now written as in all lowercase, and if Los Angeles is in uppercase, because we are using lower, so it will now be represented in lowercase only. And instead of to lower, if we use str.upper, then all the string values present in the column will be changed to the uppercase, like New York will be represented in all uppercase like this. Other thing what we can do is replacing the text for better consistency and readability. Like if someone thinks that New York is too long, then you can write it as NYC, Los Angeles can be written as LA, and so on. Like you can just cut short your bigger names to smaller ones by replacing the text. Next step is creating new columns from existing data. So for example, calculating derived value. Like what we can do, from our salary column, we can create a new column known as annual bonus, that is 10% of employee salary. So what this statement does is multiplies the value in the salary by 0.1 and calculates the value for the annual bonus column. For data cleaning is the process where handling missing values and data transformation and standardization meets up. So the steps followed are a combination of both of them we studied earlier. Now, it starts again with the same thing, setting up your raw data set. It is a messy data set. We will also look at it in the Jupyter notebook, that how it will work. For now, you can just understand the code, that how it is going to be looking like and what its practical implementation will be. We will see in a while. Next is renaming the columns. Here, like column of imp ID is renamed to employee ID, name to name. Like we are changing the case of the first letter. Similarly, for the other column, we are doing the same thing. And as explained, in place to ensure that no copy of your dataset is created, the changes are made in the original dataset itself. Next comes up handling missing values. If there is a missing age, you can calculate the mean of ages, or for missing salary, you are calculating the median of all the given salaries in the dataset. Then comes up standardizing text data. We are standardizing city names to title case, and we are standardizing the name to capitalized case. That's how we are just making sure that our columns look more readable and consistent while we are analyzing the data. Next, what this statement does, it will print your final data set that is clean, transformed, and standardized. So these were the basic commands that you can use in Python to standardize your data and make it more readable, more consistent, more efficient, and it is more reliable data you can perform your analysis on and derive valuable insights out of it, saving a lot of time of yours by not dealing with the null values or the inconsistent values or the missing values present in your data set. So now we will shift toward the Jupyter notebook to look how all of these work. So this is what we get as the output of our very first statement, that is loading the dataset. The next statement detects the missing values present in the dataset. The next statement counts the missing value per column and shows how many missing values are there in every column. And the next code snippet drops the missing values in a row present, and for the next, it does the same thing with the columns. The next code snippet, what it does is fill the missing values with the default values as we studied in the presentation. Like here, we are using unknown for filling up our missing values. As you can see, there is no city written here, so it is filled up with unknown. No name is there, that's why. So fill missing age values with the mean. If age value is not there, it is filled up with mean value. Next is for renaming the columns. Then for adding a column named joining date and then converting into a string type. Next is for creating age categories such as middle, senior, young. Next is adding a city column and then converting the cities in lowercase. So it converted the city, all of them in lowercase. And here we are just replacing the values to like New York to NYC and Los Angeles to LA. This code snippet ensures that we are creating a column named annual bonus and multiplying the salary column with 0.1, and here we got our annual bonus column. Next is the step where we learnt about data cleaning, that is a combination of handling missing values and data transformation and standardizing. So let's start with this. So our data set is loaded, that is quite messy. Then we have to rename the columns. The columns are renamed successfully. Then we need to fill the missing ages with the mean value. And here the age is filled with the mean value. Then with salary, we are repeating the same steps, but with a more messier data set, or we can say the sample data set is changed much and made a bit messy. Then we are standardizing the names. You can do all of this with any of the data set you want. You find on either Kaggle or any GitHub repository, you can work with it. And the final statement, print df, make sure that your entire data set or the data frame that you created is now clean. Missing values are removed and some missing values are replaced. The text is standardized and transformed. Thank you so much for joining Little More Learning for this video session. We'll see you next week with data visualization in Python. Till then, you may practice all the commands that you learned in this video on variety of data sets. And if you have any questions, then please drop them down in the comment section. We'll try to answer them at our best. And see you in the next video. Till then, happy learning.